Hi everyone, welcome back to Jungle Citizens. Today we are going to go for a little drive to find 5 of the most dangerous houseplants. Come and join us. Yes. Oh, so this is the little village of Cavorim, which is part of Chandor, which is the old Goan capital before the Portuguese came. And you'll see there's lots of very old ancestral homes around. But it's an area that people have been living in for thousands of years. And also the mango flowers are coming, although none of these are 2 mango trees, but there's no flowers on that yet. Now we're going to go back over that same bridge that you guys have already seen once, but why don't you jump to the other side and film this side this time? Little puppies, you went to the river. Wow, very cute. It looks like a little Layla. I hope she's not done. The jackfruit flowers and fruits, they come out of the stem rather than from the branch because the fruits are so big, no, they're massive. They can be 30, 40 kilos easily. And this is my favourite tree, Ficus calosa. So this is plant number 1 of our 5 dangerous houseplants. This is not directly dangerous, it's not going to come and strangle me or kill me, but it is indirectly dangerous because this plant very aggressively outcompetes native species, and in doing so it harms biodiversity. So the impact on us is secondary but significant. So this is Syngonium podophyllum, and many of you guys will know this plant wherever you are around the world, this guy. When it's young, the leaf looks like this. If you go down here and just see these guys. Different cultivars and varieties have different colors, but they start out with having small leaves, like 3 leaves like this. And then as they mature, they start to change their shape until they end up like this. So it's actually a very nice plant, a very cool plant from the aroid family. And yeah, of course, it's very beautiful, which is why people plant it. Unfortunately, if you live in a tropical area, a wet tropical area, I should add, this is a plant that can get out of control. So this is, as you can see, completely taking over this area. It is not allowing any other plant really to survive. So you can see it's going all the way up. That's a Terminalia bellerica tree. It's called, the English name for it is very funny actually. This tree is known as bastard myrobalan, believe it or not. And it's a native tree and it gives lots of really nice nuts. The seeds come out and it attracts lots of animals. So it's a really good tree, and you can see that this plant is really starting to grow up it. Now at the moment the tree is not bothered. The tree doesn't really mind. But if you give it another 5 or 6 years, if it reaches all the way to the top and starts covering that canopy, it will start to be a problem. Now if you take a look down here, you can see that this is a kind of a fence. But it's completely taken this over, and it's also taking over a lot of the plants that are growing inside of here. So one example is this Lea indica that's kind of just starting to break through. Now, this is not the worst houseplant, but it's definitely an invasive one. Some of the ones that we're going to show you a little bit later are a lot worse, a lot more dangerous. This one, it's pretty bad, but it's not got so bad yet. So if you're doing any tropical gardening, if you have a tropical garden that is outside of the native range of this plant, which I think is Mexico and sort of Central America, maybe into South America, if you're not in that region, our suggestion would be don't plant this plant because it is really hard work. As you can see, it grows incredibly well. It will give you quick rewards, but it's absolutely not going to give you much long-term fun because you're going to have to be doing so much maintenance cleaning this plant up. So we've got 4 more plants to go. That's plant number 1. Bad plant, not terrible plant, but pretty bad. And we are now going to go and show you plant number 2, dangerous house plant number 2. And see how that's being completely taken over. So one of the reasons why many of these plants actually get invasive is because people buy them as houseplants and then they take the trimmings of them because they grow so quickly and they throw them out. And they don't die because they're such hardy, rugged plants and nothing eats them, which then means that they start growing again, basically. As soon as the rains come, they start sending out lots of little streamers and then they establish in that area. So if you are going to plant this plant outdoors in a tropical area, at the very least, don't throw the cuttings outside of an area that you have control. Try and get them composted in a really hot compost or something like that. Because if you throw them out into the forest, there's every likelihood that it will establish. And when it establishes, it's going to start basically outcompeting some of the important native species. There's a lovely chestnut-hooded bee eater. Sorry, I got distracted with birds, but maybe you can see them. That is, I think, a chestnut-headed bee eater. It's a very, very beautiful bird. It's found actually in quite a wide range of ecosystems, open habitats and also a little bit more foresty areas. And true to their name, they eat bees and also lots of other insects, of course, that they catch on the wing. Oh, there comes another one. Okay, sorry to get distracted. Here. And now we already find ourselves at dangerous houseplant number 2. Here we have dangerous houseplant number 2, which is also from the Americas and therefore not native to Asia or Africa or many other places. And yet it has established itself and become very aggressively invasive in many, many countries of the world. One of those countries is India. It wasn't a big problem in Goa until the last 20, 30 years. It is now starting to come in, but in other parts of India, it is an absolute disaster. It is literally eating tiger sanctuaries. So this is Lantana camara. And I'm sure you guys can see why it is a houseplant or an ornamental plant. Obviously, it has very, very beautiful flowers, and it's also very easy to grow. One of the things that you'll see very commonly in this list is that all of them are extremely hardy, robust ornamental plants, which is why they also have the same attributes in nature when left to it. So this is a plant that really is causing untold damage. It's causing billions of dollars worth of damage to ecosystems and also to the economy and agriculture. It's not quite got as bad yet here in Goa, but you can see that there's lots of it in here, lots of little flashes of light, but it's getting there. This is not a plant that was really around even 20, 30 years ago in Goa in the wild spaces. It was starting to be bought as a garden plant, and that has now allowed it to escape. Now, this is a plant that many people will find on lists for promoting biodiversity-rich gardens. I would suggest very, very strongly you don't do that. These are lists that might be made for if you're in America, or they might be lists that are just talking about nectar plants. This plant does produce a lot of nectar for butterflies. However, wherever you are in the world, there is a better plant that is local to your area that can do this job. You don't need to bring this plant in, because if this plant comes in and starts establishing in a place where it isn't already, it really, really can be a big problem. So, again, as our suggestion would be with all of these plants, if we were you, we wouldn't be planting them. And of course, that doesn't go for if you're from this area. If you are from, I think it's the West Indies or somewhere in Latin America, then of course you can plant this plant. If you're anywhere else, please don't. So actually we were going to find one of the next ones, but we literally just drove past a massive clump of one of the ones that we're going to be filming. So we'll show it to you here. Dangerous houseplant number 3 is the world famous Mimosa pudica. This plant is commonly known as the touch-me-not plant. Why is it called the touch-me-not plant? You ready? because it moves. It doesn't like being touched, as you can see. So this is a very interesting plant. This is a plant that has been considered interesting for an awfully long time. So it was brought here by the British, I believe, specifically because it was just such an interesting plant. And it has since basically traveled all around the world because it can move. It's actually quite remarkably been found to be capable of learning in some sense or another. There is a specimen in a botanical garden, I can't remember exactly where, that basically gets touched all the time because it's a public display. And it's learned that actually it doesn't need to close its leaves because it's not in danger. So now it's maybe a touch me plant. It's no longer a touch me not because it actually quite likes to be caressed because it's understood that it's not a bad thing. You can see some of the flowers here. They're these really attractive kind of weird pink powder puff flower kind of things. Because this starts getting very spiky and thorny, many of the herbivores that actually do eat the leaves will ignore the thickets because they're too complicated and they're too painful. Even for us, if I now walk through this, considering I don't have any shoes on, it would be quite spiky and horrible. So this is a fantastically interesting plant without any shadow of a doubt. And if you're in a temperate region, absolutely grow it in your house. Even if you're in a tropical region, it's a fantastic plant to have indoors. But remember, if you plant it outside, it might well get a life of its own. It grows from nodes, which means that every time one piece grows on the ground, it will then grow its own root. So it gets a really thick trunk kind of root system, really strong root network. And it becomes almost impossible to get rid of. It's an incredibly strong, hardy, robust, almost bulletproof plant. So if you're in a tropical region, in Asia, in Australia, in Africa, or even in Europe, if you're in the Canary Islands or in Italy or somewhere like that, don't plant this plant. It is way too much work. But do have it in a pot. So guys, we're going to show you a little bit behind the scenes here because this is the kind of research that we have to put into these videos. This isn't just our opinion that these are dangerous plants. This is really scientifically proven. And one of our main resources for this is the Cabby Digital Library. So it's basically a compendium of all the invasive species from all around the world. So if we take a look down here at this sheet, it basically gives you a huge amount of background on what's happened. It gives you a whole load of local names. So lots of information. There's some pictures. There are obviously pictures on the top as well. Then it has a summary of invasiveness, which basically tells us more or less why it's a problem or where it's a problem. And I would recommend to any of you anywhere in the world, if you're trying to find a plant to buy, see if it's on here. Put the name into the top corner, local names, common names, whatever. It'll try and match it to your plant, and you can recognize it with the pictures so that you'll be able to identify the plant. Now, it has to be said that this is only what scientists know now, and obviously scientists aren't able to cover every square inch of the world, which means that this is not an exhaustive list. This is just what we know now. There are many, many parts of the world where this plant may be invasive, and we don't yet know. This should not be considered complete, but it's a very, very good starting point of trying to understand why. So yeah, that's about it, guys. This is how we do that kind of research. It's really important that you guys know about the Cabby Digital Library, and we will leave a link for the Cabby Digital Library in the information box beneath so that you guys can find it very easily. Oh, buffaloes. And you can see they're just preparing where the rice paddy will go. In another 1 month, 2 months, all of these fields will be very, very green with rice paddy. They're just at the beginning now. These are very ancient fields. They've been fields for at least hundreds and possibly thousands of years. And they've been growing rice here for as long as anyone in this community can remember. It's really a time-tested old practice of the area. But it's a lot of work. I think for many people that are consumers wherever they live, whatever country in the world you live, it's very easy to eat this as rice and not even think about the hard work that goes into growing it, looking after it, and then processing it. So that's a big shout out to all the farmers of the world, wherever you are, because we know from first-hand experience it is not easy growing your own food. So guys, here we are at the location of dangerous houseplant number 4. So we're at the side of quite a busy street, so you might get some noise, but this plant here is Sphagneticula trilobata. So normally there's lots and lots of flowers, but there's none at the moment. But actually there is one, I can see one here. Let me try and get to this. Here you go. You see that? That's the flower. So normally there's lots of flowers. I'm sure it'll be flowering again in a few weeks. Now, again, we can see very clearly why this is considered a very nice ornamental plant or a house plant, because it is very beautiful and it grows again very ruggedly and robustly. I don't know how easy it is for the camera to pick up on everything here. And this stuff is crazy. This is a creeper of some sort. I don't know what this is, guys. I have to be honest. I have no idea. I actually thought it was like silly string or something, but it's not. It's a plant, which is super weird. Unless it's coming from the Mycania, is it? No, okay, anyway, I'm distracted by whatever this is, but you can see, I don't know how clearly you can see, but this whole area is absolutely covered by this plant. Now, this plant will grow from any node, so if you take this and you throw this into the ground, it will start growing again. And you can see here that each one of these nodes, everywhere where it's hit the floor, you have the roots coming. So that's why this has been so successful at breaking out of captivity. Again, if you've used a bush cutter machine or a lawnmower on it, or you've taken cuttings and then thrown it out to a roadside space like this, very, very quickly it will establish itself. And when it establishes itself, it basically, again, outcompetes everything. None of the herbivorous animals eat this plant, and yeah, it just becomes a dead space basically. All of these incredible native herbs and plants are totally unable to deal with it, so it just ends up being a carpet like this, and this has no real chance of any kind of short-term regeneration. It just stays as a degraded space, and that is because of invasive plants, of which our dangerous house plant number 4 was one of them, or is one of them. So we've got one more plant to go, but because we've now driven a little bit closer to the city, we've thought maybe we can go to one of the local plant nurseries and see if we can actually find these plants for sale. So we'll go and take you there quickly first. Let's go. So we were saying that we were looking for a little nursery, and there's one right here. So we're going to take a little look, which is very difficult. But let's see. Yeah, so we're going to see now if they have any of these plants. They've got lots of Monstera adansonii, that looks like, or maybe it's even a skeleton, or laniata. And getting big, yeah, there we go, money plant. So this is the next plant that we're going to show you on the video. This is the money plant. So that one we were definitely going to find. And what about, do you have lantana? Lantana here?
Lantana? Syngonium.
Syngonium here? Ah, here. Here we have Syngonium.
Different. Okay, sure.
Yeah, so we're going to show you a few different types. Look, you can see the money plant is here. You can see the Syngonium is here. And that's a very nice Fittonia. Fittonia. Acha wala. Chapel nahi. See this?
Passion flower.
Ah, passion flower. Very beautiful passion flower. Guys, it looks like this has turned into a little bit of a distraction. One of the problems that I have with plants is that I really like them, which means when I come to a place like this, I get distracted very easily. Ah, lantana.
Lantana,
Come.
No flower.
Ah.
Big. Different.
Ah, see the Syngonium. All these different Syngoniums.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what we were saying.
Brahma Kamal.
Ah, this is very interesting. Oh, I found one more invasive. Epipremnum pinnatum. This is related to the money plant, and it's just as dangerous, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will bring you one plant, like this.
Different.
120.
120.
And the syngonium?
Syngonium acid.
120.
Okay.
Here, come here.
And money plant? Below.
Same rate.
Same.
Thank you, So we just found, was it four? 4 of the 5 dangerous houseplants for sale here. So that was literally just the first little plant shop that we found. Actually, really nice plant shop, really nice lady there. They clearly do really like plants. They've tried to collect a couple of rare ones, so I'm actually going to bring her one of my anthuriums. But we found 4 of the 5 dangerous houseplants here. The only one we didn't find was the Sphagnificola. And they're all for sale for 120 rupees. 120 rupees, which is probably about €1.20, maybe $1.40, $1.50, something like that. Very, very cheap. So, yes, that's why they've managed to become so invasive. More doggies. It's a very mystical land, this Goa. Such a beautiful place. So guys, we have arrived at our final dangerous houseplant. Here it is. Epipremnum aureum, or golden pothos, or Hawaiian pothos, or money plant. This is an incredibly aggressive plant. It is amazing how successful it is at staying alive, and that is why it has become, of course, a houseplant, because it's so easy to keep it and to look after it. But if you live in a tropical area that gets lots of rain, trust me, this plant becomes a massive handful. Come and have a look behind me. You see these? Look at the size of these trunks. So all the way up there you can see some of these huge and admittedly incredibly beautiful money plant leaves. They are massive. And you can see the thickness of that trunk. Like, they really are a beautiful plant. Look at this. Look at this. So this is why it becomes invasive. Look at this. Like, every single one of these nodes can become one plant. I could make like 25 plants right now. And if I cut these into single pieces and threw them out, each one of them would end up growing. So this is why it has the ability to become invasive. Now look. It's a very beautiful plant. Of course it is. If you want to keep it, by all means keep it. But be careful, because trust me, once it's here, once you've got it, you're probably never going to be able to get rid of it. And it will end up taking a lot of your time to keep it under control. So do bear that in mind. Going everywhere because that's exactly what it does. It is invasive for a reason.
Okay.
So this has been our last houseplant, our last dangerous houseplant. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave us a like and subscribe, because it massively helps us in the work that we do. And I shall leave you guys now with this absolutely, I almost want to pull it down. I almost want to pull it down. I'm not, because this is not my garden. This is someone else's garden. But yeah. Anyway, we're done for the day. See you guys later. Actually, there's a bonus 6th dangerous ornamental plant, and that is this. This is Antigonon leptopus, also known as a coral vine. It is highly invasive. It is again from the New World. You can see there's actually lots of bees on it. So it does provide nectar, as the lantana does and many other invasive plants can, but it aggressively outcompetes all of the native species. It covers trees, it covers buildings, it covers everything. And therefore, it stops all of the other plants that have lots of different varieties of nectar and that flower at different times. It stops all of them from being able to come back. So, yeah, actually, we lied to you all along. It wasn't 5 dangerous ornamental plants, it's 6 dangerous ornamental plants. And with that, we will say good night and goodbye and thank you very much. See you next time. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oi, oi, oi.